One of the really helpful ways for many people to meditate is to meditate with the constancy of the breathing. Even if you end up controlling your breath a little bit, it's okay. There's a way in which you can just hang in there with how regularly in-breaths and out-breaths come. And it can be a little protection from drifting off in thoughts, getting caught up in other things, getting preoccupied or reactive. Just being with that, the thread of breathing. And to help that, it can be helpful to have there's a few attitudes that can be helpful. And one of them is when you inhale, you're receiving certainly air going into your lungs, but the sense of just being in receptive mode to allow, to receive the expansion of the rib cage, the movement of the diaphragm, the expansion maybe of the belly, the air going in through your nostrils, just receive. And when you exhale, to really allow release to happen. The letting go, the contraction, the falling down of the chest, the return of the belly, so that there's this regular movement of receiving and allowing, which is often a very different attitude of the mind than maybe what we're usually up to, and wanting or protecting or worrying, thinking, trying to, all kinds of things. And asserting oneself, straining, trying to attain. To receive and to allow as a way of settling deeply into the present moment, of really being here, this time in this place, to gently support the mind, to have the trust and the contentment to not have to think so much, not feel compelled to entertain itself or solve things or review or plan. So sitting upright, and that could be metaphorically if you are laying down in a chair or in a cushion, and gently closing your eyes, if that's comfortable for you. And then to take a few long, slow, deep breaths. Maybe do this gently, maybe even lovingly, as a way of caring for yourself. And as you exhale, long exhale, maybe a little longer than usual, by releasing more, allowing the exhale to go to a kind of completion, not forcefully. Breathing in deeply and feeling the rib cage stretch, expand. And exhaling, relaxing the whole body as you release. And then to let your breathing return to normal. And again, as you're breathing in a somewhat normal way, to again feel the expansion of the body as you breathe in, and then to relax the whole body as you exhale. Softening the face, the shoulders, the chest and the belly. And then to also relax your mind, as if your mind is a muscle. Maybe you can feel the energies of the mind, the tensions, the pressures. Maybe you can feel a hardness as you exhale to soften the mind, perhaps allowing the mind to spread wide like a wide, still lake where all the waves have settled. And then to now receive the inhales. Feeling the body breathing, feeling the body expand, open up as it receives. Receive the whole experience of inhaling, the body inhaling. Not so much the air, but to feel, to experience the body inhaling and allowing the exhale. And if it's helpful for you, you can very, very softly say to yourself in the mind, receiving as you receive the inhale, allowing as you exhale. Receiving might be a kind of opening oneself to experience inhale. Allowing might be a releasing so the exhale can move towards completion. And at the end of the exhale, maybe allowing a teeny moment of a pause, or almost a pause, so the body more naturally receives, more naturally begins the inhale. As you exhale, letting go of your thoughts. letting go of your thinking. So there's a greater sensitivity to the experience of exhaling, a greater allowing. Gently letting go of thoughts. So there's a greater sensitivity to the receiving of inhale. Ever so gently, you might sit up a little bit straighter. So there's a little sense of strength in your spine. And that strength perhaps gives a little bit more fullness to receiving, the awareness that receives the inhale, receives all the sensations in the body that get activated as we breathe in the chest, the diaphragm, the belly. And with a stronger spine, little strength and dedication to allowing allowing the exhale so you ride the exhale all the way to the end. Staying closely connected to the rhythm of breathing in and breathing out. Letting the in-breath wash completely over you as you receive it. And then as we come to the end of this sitting, meditation is part of the wider Buddhist path. And meditating is part of the wider path. It can be helpful at the end of a meditation to connect your meditation practice with benefiting the world, offering to live in some way for the welfare and happiness of all. Not necessarily in any dramatic way, but just simple ways. So for this meditation, you might reflect, when is it useful? When is it helpful for others? For you to receive them, to be in a receptive mode of mind, to receive them into your hearts, receive them into your listening, rather than asserting oneself or quickly rushing ahead in a conversation. And when is it useful for others that you offer them the gift of allowing them to be who they are, before wanting to change them? How is it that receiving and allowing others can be a support for them, help them grow and relax and be happy? And may it be on this day that in the ways that we encounter people, the ways that we communicate with people, and the ways that we think about people, that we do so in a way that receives them, allows them to be, so it's supportive for them. So that for this day, we can contribute, knowingly or unknowingly, to the welfare and happiness of all beings. May this meditation session spread out into the lands with goodness, generosity, and care. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be free. Thank you. So with this talk, I start a few talks on the sixth factor of the Eightfold Path, right effort. And as an analogy for this, I'll mention that if you're driving on a multi-lane freeway and you see that up ahead on a different lane than you're in, there is some debris or an accident or something. So then it's best to not move into that lane, because that could be dangerous. If you're in a lane and you see that up ahead in your lane there is a debris or an accident, then it's wise to get out of that lane and into another lane. once you're in a good lane, it's useful to stay alert for other possible obstacles along the way. You might have been daydreaming or lost in thought and distracted, and you realize, it's really good if I actually drive alert, attentive, mindful. And then you are mindful and alert, and then you decide, I should stay this way as I'm driving. There might be other dangers up ahead. So 4 different ways of driving. One is to avoid putting oneself in danger. If one is in kind of danger, get out of danger. If one is driving well, if one is not driving well, then drive well. Drive alertly and attentively with all the skills you have for driving. If you are driving skillfully and alertly, maintain that. Keep doing that. So these would be an expression of what right effort is in the teachings of the Buddha. He said there are 4 right efforts. And there is the effort of avoiding danger, the effort of getting out of danger, the effort of arousing, prompting, evoking beneficial ways of being, and then there's the effort of maintaining those beneficial ways of being. And so that's pretty. I use that example. I got this example of the driving to suggest that this idea of right effort. There's a technical explanation for what it means in Buddhism, and maybe I'll read that technical definition. But it's kind of technical and dry and complicated and not very inspiring. And I want to make that point that all of us are constantly practicing right effort. It's just part and parcel of human life that when something is dangerous or we're going to hurt ourselves, or we try to avoid it. It's pretty common in many small ways in our daily life. And we try to stay out of trouble. We try to, when there's something good going on for us, we try to maintain it, or we arise it, we evoke it, something good, something helpful. And we do that in driving. And if we don't do it, then driving can kind of be much more difficult and dangerous. And what right effort is, varies depending on the context. How we make effort, how we engage in doing something in our activities. If I'm driving, which I did some years ago, in a massive snowstorm up in the mountains, right effort took a lot of energy to really drive safely. I had to drive, and it was just clearly dangerous with cars around and icy roads, and so the right effort there looks very different when the highway is wide open and clear and there's no traffic at all and it's straight passage. Then the right effort can be much more relaxed and easeful. So part of life is to discern what is the right effort. And that applies to meditation as well. What's the right effort for meditation? Some people are very challenged by or aversive even to the topic of effort. I was. As I was kind of learning about the Eightfold Path, I kind of really appreciated 7 of the 8 factors. But this right effort factor was one that I actually kept at a distance. I didn't want to know it. I didn't like the idea. Because my association with the word effort is to strain, is to make kind of self-centered effort, to be engaged in trying to fix something or do something in a way that carries with it a lot of ego or a lot of attachments or clinging or a lot of strain, just work. And what I've come to appreciate, partly through Buddhist practice, is time in monasteries, is the joy of effort, the joy of really kind of being present fully for an activity. And it might be a lot of energy is put into some activities, but there's play, it's enjoyable, it's great to kind of absorb oneself in something. And effort is no longer something I recoil from, but now the associations I have with effort is really delightful. Like, oh boy, I get to kind of put myself into something. And without resistance, without holding back, without straining, just there fully for this activity. I was taught that little bit when I, in Zen monasteries, maybe representative when I was in Japan at the monastery. And it was my job sometimes to carry the dinner food to them to the dinner table. So their pots of, excuse me. There were pots of rice and things that I had to carry, and I would just pick up the rice, and they had two handles. I'd pick it up by one handle and carry it with one hand. And the other monk said, "No, Gil-san, you have to do things with Zen power, Zen no chikara." And what they meant by that was to hold both handles, hold the rice pot in both hands, to really give yourself over to just holding the rice pot. And that was the activity of the moment, and give yourself really there, and just do that. And at first I thought that was kind of silly. I mean, why all this extra effort of two hands and not one hand? But I learned that, just really be present for that pot, to really just me and the pot, kind of commune with the pot. It just felt delightful to kind of have that kind of presence. And so I learned that how we make effort is the art of right effort. And so part of this is that right efforts is defined, these four right efforts are defined with a very important Buddhist term. And it's in Pali, it's kusala and akusala. Kusala is spelled K-U-S-U-L-A. No, K-U-S-A-L-A. And akusala is the A in front of that. And it is translated into English as either skillful or as wholesome. Akusala is unskillful or unwholesome. And it's the common word in the ancient Pali language for a skill, that someone who is a craft person develops kusala, develops a skill. Someone who trains animals, trains horses or elephants back then, is skilled in the training. A Buddhist practitioner develops the skills of practice. But sometimes the word kusala seems to have associations with the English word wholesome, or healthy, or nourishing, or helpful. And it even has associations with the English word ethical. What is ethical? And akusala is one, unethical. There's a range of meanings, and so depending on the context, might translate the word differently. In the context of meditation practice, the word as often means skillful, because clearly the Buddha relates meditation practice to an activity that's similar to the skill of learning a musical instrument or learning a craft. And part of the association with that is repetition. That a skill is learned through repetition over and over and over again. And this is true for meditation practice. It's best not to be like a little child in the back seat of a car, telling your parents who are driving, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" When you meditate, don't have any concern for being there, getting there. Just be content to just be here with your experience and just keep practicing and doing this simple practice as if you're holding both handles on the pot, as if you're just you and your breathing. You're there to be with the breath, come back to your breath. You're there to let go of your thoughts and being distracted and caught up in that, and starting again, and starting again. People who meditate regularly will find that slowly over time, the body changes, especially if you sit cross-legged, or if you sit upright in a chair, that kind of slow, very, very slowly, the body begins to become more skilled in the meditation posture. It took me 7 years when I first started meditating, without really efforting or trying to do it, until I was sitting for a while in full lotus. And I kind of developed a kind of a yogic body. But it was repetition, day in and day out, that does it, and the imperceptible changes. And so the same thing with focusing on the breath. We're developing a skill, and it's the repetition of coming back, letting go, coming back, letting go, and coming back. And we're developing the skill of not clinging and holding on to thoughts, ideas, feelings, emotions. Developing skill of not being reactive. We're developing the skill of beginning again in a simple way, in a relaxed way. To start again with the breathing in a receptive, allowing way, without straining or wanting or getting or trying to attain something. Just here with this experience of breathing. Just here, with Zen no chikara, with Zen power, not forceful macho power, but the power of presence, being here for this breathing. But through the day of a retreat, for example, or in daily life, this applies to all kinds of circumstances. We develop the skill of really being present for what we're doing while we're doing it. And for those of you who are not in a monastery, probably one of the best tools you have, best practices you have to replicate the benefits of really being on retreat or enhancing the retreat or bringing the Dharma into your daily life is to, more often than you are now, give yourself over to just doing one thing at a time. Give yourself just doing that. Just hold both handles of the pot. Just be in the sink washing the dishes. Just sweep your kitchen floor without thinking about plans for the day or how thinking upset about how someone else tracked mud into the floor. Just sweep. So just do one thing. And this idea of just doing one thing when you're doing it and just being present and then learning how to do that one thing without strain, without hesitation, without complaining, without being over-eager, just kind of finding that slowly by doing repetition, finding a delightful, settled, enjoyable, skillful way of doing whatever we're doing. And in doing so, becoming free of rumination, becoming free of the ruminating mind that's ruminating about all kinds of things in ways that undermine us, that debilitate us. We want to develop a mind which is skillful, that is wholesome, that is helpful. And learning the art of really skillful engagement in the activity of the moment, learning how to do that wisely, is becomes one of the great delights of this practice. So I'll say more about these 4 right efforts in the next couple of days, and I hope that by the time I finish, you'll appreciate the tremendous value of it, especially if you were like me when I first started this practice and learned about the right effort. I just oh no, this is not for me, or this is going in the wrong direction. I hope that you'll hang in here and find your way through this until you also will feel the joy, discover the joy of effort. So thank you, and I look forward to continuing tomorrow.